bit more on how AI is actually used in oil and gas exploration. Advanced algorithms and machine learning are used to analyze geological, geophysical, and seismic information to predict things such as where the oil and gas reservoirs are, optimize drilling locations, and help engineers make better decisions throughout the exploration and drilling phases. Okay. Let's pick up this now and have more discussion, more insight into the use of AI in the oil and gas sector. And joining us now is Cary Larry. Cary is the Vice President of Energy Futures Clearing at Marex. Cary, thanks very much. Appreciate you coming in and chatting with us.
Thank you, Sean. Good to be here.
I want to pick up on what we just talked about. Look, exploration for oil and gas is expensive. Everyone knows that. So why is oil drilling ideal for AI development? Kind of walk us through some of the more obvious things that we may have just touched upon.
Well, we're talking about cost, but I think what really comes down when you're talking about oil and gas producers is really their production efficiency. How much can I get out without spending as much? But to them, it's not so much about the spend. It's really about how much I can get out. Because what really matters to them is that that production they get out, that's what goes to market. So that's where it really becomes a more of an important fact.
Yeah, if I'm not mistaken, I think that's what breathed new life into the Gulf of Mexico with deep water drilling in the late 90s. And that science was akin to sending someone to the moon. It was so involved. So what about the extent that AI can improve the speed and cost in oil and gas drilling? What else can it improve?
Well, Sean, you made a great point. So even in fracking, even onshore fracking here in the U.S., back in 2018, we were looking at 1,000 rigs on the U.S. land. Now we're about 600, but we're producing more oil than we were then, and exactly back in the Gulf of Mexico. But right now it's become more of I'd say more of a mechanical innovation rather than an intelligent innovation. So if we can do that with mechanics or industrial, we can make so many more strides forward by using technology. So I think that's where it really becomes more of an interesting thing for these oil and gas drillers.
I thought the drone information we had in the setup report to you was especially eye-opening because you can really see how you can get from a bird's eye view. And it seems to me that if you can use a drone to do that kind of eyes-on work in the field, it would lead to safety measures that certainly would help people who would normally do this work. Has safety been involved in AI improvements so far?
Well, it does. It absolutely does. But the issue there is that you have to have consistent data. We talk about artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence, for what it's worth, artificial. But we have to have the data that's going in. The data that's going in is as important as the data that's coming out. So when we look at safety issues, what are the black swans? What are the anomalies versus what are the normalities, the things that always happen? And that's where you really have to start to figure out, what is right or what is safe versus what could not be safe. And so that's where it really starts to expand there.
It's no secret that this industry has been in the crosshairs of environmentalists now for decades. And I think a lot of people are going to be looking at AI to perhaps find ways to improve environmental considerations. One thing that comes to mind to me, I spent oddly a decent amount of time in the Arctic, and I know that the pipelines that run up in that area had always been built on permafrost, permanently froze. Well, since it's warming up, that area is becoming more moist, and it is, for lack of a better word, just dropping in some areas. The fact that AI can be used to monitor these things seems to me it could head off any kind of environmental disaster. Are there things like that being used?
Oh, Sean, absolutely. Because what we see now is the big thing right now is everybody looking at methane emissions, right? So if drones can see or understand where those methane emissions are coming from and how big they are in certain areas around certain pipelines or certain areas, that's where it's going to be really making a difference. So those environmental concerns going forward are really going to be watched there.
What are the biggest hurdles that you think kind of stand in the way right now for widespread AI adoption in drilling and exploration?
It comes down to cost. Like I said earlier, what comes out of the ground, what E&Ps, what producers can sell matters to them. So the cost of what they can sell it at versus the cost that they put in to improve these technologies really matters. It has to balance out. And these producers, they're not just, thinking about the next year, they're thinking about 3, 5, 10 years down the road. So those costs have to balance out.
And Carl, lastly, beyond North America, where is AI-powered drilling being used now, and where do you think it's going to be most beneficial?
Well, again, we're talking about costs. I think most beneficial, you're going to look at a lot of Middle East countries, a lot of maybe even Asian countries, the ones that are going to that really embrace technology and advancement and have the money to go and do that. So that's where I think it's going to be best. And when you look at other countries outside the U.S., it comes to labor costs. They can ease the labor cost and focus on technology rather than the U.S. where we focus on labor over technology.